One time, while taking my children to Disneyland, my son begged me to go on the Dumbo ride. Now, there's something that you need to know about me. I love Disneyland. I was an avid Disneyland fan long before I had children, but it became oh so much better when I could take my kids and they could experience it. But there is one ride at Disneyland that I really could do without, and that is the Dumbo ride. Yet my son really wanted to ride it, despite the fact that their line management is terrible. There is no shade, and you stand there for a long time without moving. That said, it was his experience, and I was committed to letting him go on that ride. So we stood in line. He probably asked me every 5 minutes, "Mommy, when do we get to go on the line? And when do we get to finally get in the ride?" And so I would have to explain to him, this is how the line works. You go this way, this way, this way, this way. You finally get to the front. When you get to the front, the woman counts how many people there are. She gives you a feather. And if you get a feather, that's how you know you are riding this ride. So he continued to ask me, "How much longer, Mom? How much longer, Mom?" And I did the very best I could to remain patient. And a couple of times, I will admit, I did offer that we could leave. That if he didn't want to wait in this line, that was totally fine with me. We could find something else. But he was committed, and I give him full props for his dedication. As we got to the front, we were getting close enough for the worker to start handing out feathers, and I thought, oh, please, I really hope we're going to get on this ride. But just as she gets to us, she hands the last feather to the group right in front of us. But she turns to my son and says, "How many are in your party?" And it was just the two of us. And he said, "It's just me and my mom." And she said, "Okay, I don't have any more feathers, but I do have one more elephant. So if you will hold this imaginary feather, I will get you on the next ride." Well, he dutifully took the feather, and we waited while the ride in front of us started to have their turn. About a minute later, my son tugs on my shirt again, and I say, "Honey, we are so close. I promise we are going to be on the next time." And he says, "No, Mommy, can you please hold this feather? I don't want to hold it anymore." And I love this story. I love this example that my little boy had of the magic of Disneyland and completely believing that woman that this imaginary feather was the ticket to his ride. How often are we handing out imaginary feathers, expecting people to grab them and fully grasp the magnitude of the situation? When it comes to our leadership and communication, too often we're dealing out magic feathers instead of taking the time to make sure we are explaining exactly what we want and what we need in our businesses and in our teams. When I was a sales trainer at a technology company, we often faced the dreaded beginning of a fiscal year where we knew a new sales structure or territory was going to fall down upon us. Whether they were changing our renewal numbers or changing our leaders and changing our team and changing our managers, every year something new happened. And as an employee, it was very frustrating. And then when I became the sales trainer that was responsible for helping people understand these changes, that's when I knew that we needed to take a different approach to cultural and structural changes within our organization. And I developed the 4-step enrollment process that helps leaders and managers communicate important and effective programs so that their employees are willing to take them on, understand them, and have some ownership. The 4-part process is simple. It doesn't take a lot of work and it doesn't take a lot of time. You can take a simple plan, just nail it down into 4 simple steps so that your employees really understand what's going on. The first step is something that we already do. We create a plan and we say, this is what's going to happen. That part is simple, but the next parts are what's missing. We often just let enrollment be one thing, when really enrollment is where you have a 2-way communication, they understand what's going on and they're committed to the process. So what other steps are important? The second part of the enrollment process is a statement of commitment. How long are you committed to this plan? Is it long-term? Is it short-term? Help people understand that you're committed to this for a long-term approach so that they don't just go, "Oh, I'm not going to do this. They're just going to change it again in another 12 months. Help them know that even if it is an only 12-month plan, that it's an important part of the organization and the way to keep a profit and loss statements balanced and help people grow in their own individual roles within the organization. So that statement of commitment is important, but so is the third step. This third step is not just the plan, but it's how the individuals within the plan will function and how they can work to help the program be the most successful. You might need to take some time here talking about it. Sometimes plans come down from corporate organizations in the form of a memo or even an email. And people aren't really explained their responsibility or why it's important for them to function in this manner. So in that third step, you're going to talk about specifics and ways that those individuals have responsibility in the plan as a whole. Some of these conversations can happen in a memo, but many of them need to happen in one-on-one conversations where a manager will work with their employee to help them understand the focus of the project and help them know exactly their role for greatest success. The fourth step is the most important. So after you've shared the plan, your statement of commitment, and how individuals work within that plan, the question of support is my favorite part of the enrollment process. You can ask anything from like, will you support me in this? But one of my favorites is, under what circumstances could you support me in this? It opens up the dialogue. And while employees at certain levels won't have the opportunity to change the program or the plan, they might be able to give you some specifics about how they as individuals within their individual roles can really make it successful. And as a manager, you might have that flexibility to give them the ownership that they need to really take the job and run with it. So this 4-step enrollment process, helping them understand the plan, that you're 100% committed to the plan, even if it's for a short term, the individual specifics of how those individuals fit within the plan itself, and number 4, the question of support, helps the enrollment process be more successful. Instead of throwing out magic feathers and expecting people to hold them for a long time, take the time to walk them through this 4-step process. But this doesn't just work in corporate environments. It works with the relationships that matter most to us. It can work with our kids, it can work with our spouses, it can even work with our friends. How could you use the 4-step enrollment process to get more support in your life and in your goals? The enrollment process works when you're trying to take on something new, but you know you need someone else to help you every step of the way. Help them see the plan, your commitment, how they can help you, and then ask them for a question of support. This works really effectively in my organization. I have a number of assistants who work all across the country and throughout the world. If I just give them a task, sure, they'll get it done. But if I help them understand how that task is part of a bigger program within our organization, and how even simple social media scheduling or emptying the trash or shredding matters in our organization, if I'm willing to take that time and help them understand that it's an important and integral part to making sure everything functions in our business, they do their jobs with a lot more satisfaction and ownership, and they're willing to do it with a smile. Instead of just throwing something at them and throwing them a paycheck at the same time, I'm helping them see how they really help this organization function. So I hope that as you consider the ways that you'd like your leadership and your communication to up-level, that you'll consider this 4-step enrollment process as a way for you to communicate more effectively with your team and for them to understand you as a manager and a leader, so that you ultimately can take the plans and goals that come down from whatever part of the organization, and together as a team, you're committed to making it happen.